Ooh, wow. Let's see, am I in focus? Good? Yeah, I'm okay. Hi guys, welcome to another video on the channel. This video is one of those my reflective videos where I pretty much try to dump some of my thoughts and learnings over the last few months and kind of just give an update. I haven't made a video in a while. I've been quite busy with other things, which you would probably find out soon. But for now, yeah, I've just been busy. But in between all of that, I decided to make this video to kind of like place a timestamp to this moment or this period of my life where I am feeling pretty overwhelmed and uncertain about a number of things. And yeah, the easiest way for me to like keep record of that or somehow even get some clarity is through making this video. So yeah, in the month of July I went on leave, yeah, and I had the whole of July to myself to kind of just refresh myself from all the work. I mean, I have a normal job aside of YouTube and every other thing I do, so I have to balance things properly. But yeah, so the month of July I was pretty much on leave, and it was mostly a learning phase for me, mostly a phase for me to kind of take a step back and more intentionally work on things that I want to work on. And yeah, so I was able to put out a number of videos that period. I was able to do some experiments with different content styles. And yeah, and that was when I also started the Honest Conversation show, I would call it, not a podcast, show, where I pretty much have honest conversations with people about various social topics that we can all relate with. But yeah, also another part to the month of July that I don't think most people are aware of, for which I am disclosing for the first time on this channel, is like I tried therapy for the first time. Yeah, for the bulk of my life I have pretty much struggled with depression and my mental health, and it's something I have always wanted to talk about on this channel, but it's also something I am careful about how I talk about on this channel, because I want to come at it from a place where it in some way is positive, right? Like I don't want to come at it from a sulking place where,
depression is hard, and that's how my life is. Boo, life is wicked, life is hard.
which, if we're being honest, there's arguments for why life is hard and all of that, but I've always wanted to find a positive angle to this and figure out the most effective way to communicate it, because I think a recurring theme, which was the same for me for the longest time, is like you feel depressed and you kind of stay there. So I have been struggling with that for a period, but the month of July I decided to try therapy, and yeah, it was quite an experience. Again, for the longest time, a lot of friends of mine have always talked to me about trying therapy. They're like, yeah, you might benefit from it, or stuff like that. And almost always my argument against that is like, I'm a pretty self-aware person, and I think that if I was to go into therapy, very likely you'll be telling me things I know, and I don't see what life-changing realization will come from it. I don't think you can solve my problems, because my problems are pretty existential, and I kind of know what you're going to tell me because my mom is a psychologist and I spent a lot of time as a child reading her books, so I kind of have an idea what those things are. But I tried it anyway because yeah, a friend talked about it and I felt like, okay, everybody I care about has this point, has in some way nudged me in that direction, and I have never budged, so maybe it's time to do something different, right? So I tried therapy. I tried to get local, like Nigerian therapists, but I think eventually I settled for some app called BetterHelp, and that was where I was able to get somebody to talk to, right? Yeah, and I tried therapy and I had like a couple of sessions, I think 2. I missed some sessions too. But interestingly, I am glad to some extent, yeah? Yeah, I'm glad, really. Okay, so interestingly, I'm glad to announce that, or to let you know that I think it was a very fruitful experience. In what ways? I think it helped me realize that, first of all, therapy is not going to solve your problems. And yeah, that sounds like, what's he saying, right? But yes, therapy would not solve your problems. Therapy would give you the opportunity to understand yourself better and find the patterns that are causing you to experience life the way you do. And a huge part of that involves being honest with oneself, involves being vulnerable, involves even, first of all, desiring to change. And that was like the different thing. That was like what hit and made things a lot more, that made things different for me. Because the question was, do you even want to be happy, right? Because generally I always like tell people I'm not really a happy person. I'm not like that bubbly guy. I can be that guy a ton of times, but that's not like my default state. I get into it when I'm around certain people and I go back to being a mellow, calm person, generally, right? But then in that period, the question was that made the difference for me is, do you even want to be happy? And I realized that for the longest time in my life, it's something that if anyone asks you, just like, hey now, right? Like you very easily just say yes. But I realized that that's not the case. Like I realized that I have never in my life told myself I want to be happy. I realized that I've always felt that happiness is not even something anyone deserves. Like, so when I even see people say I deserve to be happy, I found like, you deserve what? And a huge part of that is like going through different experiences. You get into the tone of feeling like, oh, this is all life has to offer, right? All the bad shit. So for the most part, I optimize for the bad shit. Like, yeah, it's going to come and I'm going to get through it and I'm going to get through it this way. So it was always like me playing defense. But then I had to like consciously now look at that and realize that with everything in my life, I have chosen to be an intentional person, like with career, with academics, with everything, even with my relationships with people. But I have never ever chosen to be intentional about myself being happy. And so I decided to try that flip. Like, what if I intentionally try to be happy? What if I told myself that I want to be happy? What if I choose to be happy? And that was significantly different for me. That made a whole lot of difference because it got me to a place where I began to more consciously do things that would optimize for my happiness than for my depression. And I tweeted something during this period where I talked about how I now realize that happiness is more of a decision than a state, like something you just naturally feel because the world gives it to you. It's like at every point in time you have like your right hand and your left hand with you, and if there's something you have to reach out to, you could choose to do it with either one of them, right? And over time, if you were to train yourself to consciously reach out with your left hand, the left hand kind of becomes your vibe. Like you become more inclined to naturally use your left hand to grab stuff. If you were to train yourself to reach out with your right hand, over time, like you become naturally inclined to. So I in that moment, I was like, okay, I think this is how this works. Like happiness, depression, and I could choose to, at every point in time, focus my energy on one or the other. And again, that's not to say that at every point in time you have like equal level of happiness in your life or opportunities to be happy and opportunities to be depressed. That's how I see them. They're like opportunities. You have to take advantage of the opportunities, as weird as that sounds. So for like the longest time, I think I always took advantage of the opportunities to be depressed. Oh shit, I'm depressed, right? And then I sunk like into it. And what that meant for me is like, so, and I never really figured out how to get out of depression. Because for me, it was like, oh, this thing has latched onto me and it's trying to sink me into the depressed parts of this world, right? And drag me into the void. And I'm just going to go with it. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go peacefully. And it's like dragging me and it drags me to the depths of the ocean until it realizes, oh, we can't go any further. It's like, this guy's giving up on stuff already. Let's leave this guy. He's already at his lowest. How much lower can he be? So that was my system of getting out of it. Like, okay, yeah, you've come again, right? Do your worst. And it was just like, I would just go with the flow, like go down, 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 down. And anybody who really knows me knows what this means. Like a lot of times this means like a break from social media. It means I stop interacting with people. It means that I disappear for months and then I come back after a couple of months and people don't understand what has happened, right? But then I try to flip that. I'm like, okay, so what if I chose not to sync with this thing? What if the thoughts came? What if this feeling came and I consciously chose to focus on another feeling? Because again, like I said, it began to feel more like a decision Like, there's the good stuff and there's always the bad stuff. But what do I want to think about this moment? The good stuff. So I began to do that. I did that for the first couple of weeks and it felt different. But also, it felt wrong at first because it felt like I fell into another problem where, oh, now I'm ignoring my emotions. Now I'm dismissing my feelings. Now I'm choosing to bury stuff under the disguise of I choose to be happy. But then I reached a place that I think I'm pretty comfortable with as regards that. And eventually I began to see it as, no, it's not dismissing your feelings. And what it was for me is, when these things come, the step one for me is like, I acknowledge them. Acknowledge your feelings, right? And when I acknowledge those feelings, I'm like, okay, now that I've acknowledged these feelings, what do I want to do about it, right? And in turn of time, that involves me channeling it in some way. And yeah, this phase is so important because like emotions don't just disappear. It's like how they say energy cannot be created or destroyed. I think emotions cannot be created or destroyed. Like they keep changing form. So if you're feeling like this emotion right now, you need to channel it or transform it into something. And for me, the longest time, I used to transform that into like work. Like once I'm depressed, in fact, generally I'm like obsessed with work in some way. But when I'm depressed, don't go there. Like you can't you can't do it. You can't compete with me on any level because I will channel all that energy into stuff and convince myself that I'm being productive, which to be fair I was, but again, it's a matter of operating from a place of peace, which is what this channel is about. My journey through figuring out how to operate and live life from a place of peace, right? So, I began to try to consciously channel this, but not dwell on it. And that's the positive angle I want to have, or outlook I want to have on these kind of topics when I discuss them on this channel. I think it is very important to not dwell on it. So the channel for me, and in this period again, I had like the shortest depressive period of my life or cycle. And it lasted for like 2 days or 3, which is very unusual because normally the least it will last is like a week or 2. That's the least. And it could go like up to 6 months and I'm just like off the wall. So, but I think what made the difference, again, not to make this video a very long and blabby one, is what made the difference was first making a choice, like a conscious choice to say, I'm going to always try to choose happiness when the opportunities for happiness and the opportunities for depression present themselves. And it's not this easy, obviously. There are times when I tend to slip back, but I think that choice is very important. And the next stage of that choice was choosing, like the next step after that was like choosing not to dwell. I feel what I feel. I acknowledge I'm feeling this. Sometimes I talk to somebody about it. Sometimes I just mention it. Not like I need you to do something about it, but just for mentioning sake. And then sometimes I write a song, and yeah, I did that this time. I wrote like my first song. I mean, I've written songs before, but this like was my first complete song, end-to-end, instrumental, written out. I even recorded it. I've not mastered it. I think I'll put it out at some point. But yeah, I channeled it through that song and I chose not to dwell. After channeling it through this song, I was able to move on to the next thing. And that pretty much made some significant difference. Again, this is not a video to tell you that I have cracked depression and if you are depressed, this is what you must do. Nope. I know that I would still struggle with depression and it would be a constant like, yeah, work on this, come back, work on this, come back, and all of that. But that's what this channel is about. This channel is just a place to put on my imperfection without any stigma. So if you try this and it's not working out, that's okay. It may not work out. I don't think it has worked out for me. I'm just logging this video to indicate that it worked out in that week. And I think these are the reasons it worked out. I'm still going to continue to reflect on this kind of things and put them out on the channel because I really want the channel to be a place where people that have similar struggles with life or people feeling similar things can come to and find some level of solace in knowing that they're not the weird ones, in knowing that what you feel is absolutely normal, in knowing that it is okay to feel that way, and in knowing that it's okay that you may not have figured it out. And again, in cases where I think I may have some insights that may help you, I would share. But again, this is more about self-awareness, which is really about the self. So I'm figuring out stuff for myself and sharing that in hopes that in some way it might help you figure out stuff for yourself. Now that's it. This was a long video, but if you watched till the end of this video, thanks for watching this video, and let me know your thoughts about the things I've talked about. If you're somebody that struggled with similar things, what's your way of approaching it? What's your way? How do you view this whole happiness and getting depressed thing? What do you do when you get depressed? How do you come back to being your vibing self and all of that? I would really love to hear from you down in the comment section, and yeah, kind of create a community. Yeah, I'm trying to do that more intentionally now, like just create this community of people who are seeking fresh air in this pretty choky world. And yeah, I'm willing to create that with others. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.